Hi, this is Talk-ist and I'm Jacci Pillar, a show about everything and nothing, and this is a segment we like to call Nerd Wars. And I'm here with campaigner for disability parking and the founder of No Permit, No Park, Elisha Matthews. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And we are going to do Nerd Wars is something I do where I do a bit of basically my guests out nerds me on their topic of choice. And of course, we chose disability parking. And I decided, I usually do this Google search where I usually go, fun facts about, and I couldn't find any fun facts about disability parking. So what I found was myths about disability parking. So today I'm going to present you with 3 myths, and we can counter and have you can out-nerd me. How does that sound?
It's my favourite topic.
I'm sure we could come up with some fun facts like, hey, we need to park too, and you need to not take our space. Fun fact 1.
There's not a lot fun about trying to find disability accessible parking when you go out. It can be a really stressful event. But I mean, at Christmas time when you're trying to find a park and you're driving around and around the shopping centre, and there's always those people who complain that the disabled parks are always empty. I look at people and go, I don't know why more people don't take me shopping.
That needs to be on a t-shirt. Take me shopping. You get access to a disability park. So on that, one of the first myths was that when you have a disability parking permit, your friends and your family can use it too.
No, not unless you are getting in or out of the car. And this can be a really contentious issue, particularly when you have someone who might be picking up the permit holder. And I know that my son gets this a lot when he's coming to pick me up, because he'll go and park in the space and my permit is on display, and he jumps out of the car and he comes up the elevator to get me from wherever I am, and he always comes back flustered and he says, oh, some guy just had to go at me, or some woman just abused me. And I say to him, just ignore them. You're doing the right thing. I'm coming back to the car. But I have had people ask me, a lady asked me one day, if I'm going out and I don't feel like going into the post office, can I send my son in? And you could send your son to do whatever you like. He said, but if we're in a disability park, can I send him? No, not unless he's got his own permit. Oh, but he's doing something for me. That's really not how it works. The permit is so that the person who has the mobility limitations has that access to be able to get in and out of the vehicle more easily. If the person getting in and out of the vehicle doesn't require it, they shouldn't be using it.
So on the topic of people thinking of misusing disability parking, you were recently stalking the streets with Channel 7 Brisbane News. What was that about?
So we've had some significant legislation changes here in Queensland since I started the campaign. In the beginning, it was only a $40 fine that police could issue. After many meetings with MPs and ministers and me pushing the subject, finally we got it increased. It had a little bit of an effect on the offences happening, the number of offences, but it really didn't stop it. So further discussion about what we could do to improve the access was met with yet another fine increase. So 18 months ago, the fine was doubled. So it's now $533. It is the highest parking fine in Queensland. It sends a very significant message to the community that it's, not just like double parking or parking across your driveway. It is has a very serious impact on people in the community. So after 18 months, we've waited to see what the impact of that has been. The difficulty is that we have one side where it's a state infringement and the police issue it, and the other side where it's council. And our Transport Minister did write to councils to ask them to, meet us and and increase the fine as well. And after 18 months, I saw very little action on that. So I decided to write to them on behalf of the disability community and say, you've had some time, the minister's written to you. So we wanted to see, what kind of impact this has had. And we were out filming, looking at spaces. We looked at a lot of spaces that are still non-compliant and beyond inaccessible. Some of them are downright dangerous. And we also caught a number of offenders in the act and got all the usual excuses. I've got a delivery to do. I'm only going to be a minute. There was nowhere else to park.
And it's interesting because one of the other myths I found was that people seem to think that disability parking permits are free. And, for me, it's certainly it's quite a spurious argument when you know of people in your community that have had to wait 2 hours, have been regularly 2 hours late for work because someone was just going to take a minute. So, yeah, it doesn't hold people up. So there's a cost to disabled people when people do this that is not fully understood. So, but definitely disability parking permits, that being free is a definite myth too.
Disability parking permits are not free. We have to pay an application fee to begin with to apply for them, but there's also something in it that I call disability tax or disability admin. Whenever we have to apply for something like this, most of us have already gone through this process of doctors and specialists and being diagnosed and having treatment. So there's been a cost involved in that. And it's not just the monetary cost, it's the physical cost. It's the time that we have to spend. And then we have to apply for, whatever it is that we need to apply for, whether it be DSP or NDIS or taxi subsidy, then permits are the same thing. It's time. You have to get the application form, download it, take it to your doctor because he's got to prove yet again, despite you proving through 4 other departments that you have a disability, he's got to prove yet again that you are disabled. So then you take that form into the transport department and you wait. You've got that time of waiting. And like you mentioned, there's the time lost and there's the cost involved in that every time you can't get a park because someone has misused it.
It's true that expression time is money. For people who need these spaces to be able to access the kind of lifestyle, we talk about with NDIS, is it control and choice or one of those things? A lot of those things take a lot longer for us. And, we talk about the spoons metaphor, which a lot of people don't particularly know about, but I would suggest that out of this nerd wars that a few people go Google spoons theory, disability, because we measure our life in spoons, and often we'll say to each other, have you got the spoons for that? Before we were like, do you want a break between filming segments? Have you got enough spoons? It's like, yeah, we've got enough spoons. And these regularly, these administration wars, let's call it, take an awful lot of spoons for us too. So
it can be very exhausting. And if you don't get a form filled out correctly, you've got to go back and do it again. If a doctor misses, ticking a box, got to go back and do it again. It's very time consuming and energy consuming.
I'd like to thank you for the work you do again. It's incredibly vital work, and I hope that, perhaps in the future that perhaps Melbourne and Victoria might start looking at increased fines. There's anyone out there listening? Thank you so much for coming on Nerd Wars.
Thank you. It's really great to have the opportunity to be able to talk about these things, and I'm always happy to talk more to anyone who needs to know more.
Thank you.